Hello, everyone. I'm Krasi, and I invited Dr. Arjun Pai. Actually, he doesn't need introduction. Dr. Pai, thank you for accepting my invitation. You were very humble. You wanted me to present you only as a researcher in astrology, but actually you're known with your Pai Padati method, which is amazing in the predictive astrology. So thank you for being here. I invited you with the idea to discuss the current mundane events for the humanity from the perspective of the Vedic astrology. So if you like, I just give the word to you. And I know we are both astrologers. We know the main cycles, of course, but the Vedic perspective and your perspective will be very interesting. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Krasi, for having me here on your channel. It's just a pleasure to come and talk about that. I'm not greatly into mundane astrology and predicting world events, but I definitely focus more on the current events that are happening world based on just transits, is what I would say. So currently, what we are seeing in the world, and we have done this video on my YouTube channel, Dr. Arjun Pai Astrology as well. See, if you really look at what was happening currently, you are a Vedic astrologer yourself, Krasi, and so you must be knowing that if you look at Jupiter, which is associated with the financial services industry and the growth and expansion, it is kind of hemmed in between two malefics, which is Saturn on one side, which is in the sidereal zodiac. It is in Aquarius, Saturn, which is just retrograded. And then on the other end, you have Rahu and Mars, which means Mars and Rahu on one side and Saturn on the other side is hemming your Jupiter. Okay? That is a phenomenon that you have been seeing for last few months. Then the other phenomenon that we have also been observing is how your your Mercury and Venus, Venus would all be associated in Vedic astrology as being beneficial. So when you look at Mercury and Venus also, they were hemmed in between, Rahu on one side, the Sun is hemming in between them. So what we call them in astrology is Papakatario. It's like a scissor. So when you have two malefics and there is a planet or a house in between that and it is hemming and it is kind of, like a scissor. It's working like a scissor. So what we see when you see all the benefits which are coming in this kind of a scissor, which is what we call as Papakartari. Kartari means like a scissors. That's when you see the whole world is going through issues that we are seeing currently. And this doesn't augur well for us going forward as well, Krasi. And when I have to look at the crystal ball and to see what is in store, again, I repeat again, I am not a mundane astrologer. I'm trying to make any world predictions. I can stand corrected. I'm just purely trying to read from the planetary energies in the sky today and how they will augment for the situations that have to unfold for us. So I do not know the depth of the pain that is there, but I can definitely say there is pain. And it can come in terms of a lot of financial institutions, including a lot of organizations and their books of accounts also, I would say, that has to be scrutinized, and a lot of companies will come under a lot of heat from the governments. Okay, so until you see that this transition is going to happen, you will still see world events that are going to happen. We are at war, there is shortage of food, there is shortage of essential commodities, in terms of even semiconductor industries, your enterprise chips and things have also become very expensive. Cars have become more expensive. Construction has become more expensive. So this kind of cloud which is there when I see that Jupiter, in my view, has to move out of uh, the sign of Pisces when it moves into Aquarius, or sorry, Aries next year, somewhere around in April, around 22nd of April. I think that's going to be a transformation there. But prior to that, I would also say when Jupiter moves into Revati, also there might be some respite that might come. Now Jupiter is going to retrograde back from where it is. Saturn is going to come back. Retrogression will happen in around about July, mid-July, around the 12th or 13th of July. So I think there is, as long as Saturn remains in Dhanishta Nakshatra, Krasi, I still feel there is going to be issues with the financial services industry and how we see the inflation and the hyperinflations are going to hang on. In my suggestion, we would probably see some improvement coming as Saturn moves into Satabhishak Nakshatra or Shatataraka Nakshatra, which would be around about February or March of 2023. So there is a little pain for all of us, maybe till early next year. And I'm sure next year, in my view, I've said this to many of my clients and people who come and take readings from me or consultations from me. I've said, I feel 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year for the world. Trust me on it. We might have initially the first quarter, which is the first 3-4 months, might not be, we are in the recovery phase. I would see recovery phase come into the world, and where there would be more peace, there would be more resolution for the war. I feel now the war-like scenario that we see in Ukraine and Russia, in my view, Mars has to move away from Aries, where Rahu is transiting at the moment. And I think it can intensify and that can come to some resolution after Mars has transited over Rahu. So that is the time period that I'm waiting for Mars to move over. So I would say mid-July and August could be good months for some sort of resolution when it comes to the war-like scenario that is going on. If a resolution is not reached during that month, I think it can be a very long-standing war that we can see. It can go on for a little longer, and I would anticipate it can go up to probably November, December. But positively, let us see that things can get back to normalcy, but the kind of impact that you see from the war and coming out of the war, and how the global food crisis, climate change, so many other factors, Krasi, I think we are up in the air at the moment. So, but I am very, very positive and looking forward to see some resolutions and some respite that can come for the world.
Pai, what is your opinion about this very particular placement now in July? We have almost perfect alignment. I think this is very rare scenario. I don't know exactly how rare, but this is very rare. Almost perfect situation on the sky when all planets are in their perfect positions. Wouldn't this be like a remedy or relief from? I know it will be temporary relief, but certainly I think it will be of some help. What do you think?
Yes, I think that's definitely there. Mars will be in its Mul Trikona, which means its head office and its own sign. Jupiter in its own sign. Saturn in its own sign. So I definitely feel that there could be some improvement that you would see. That's why I'm saying I think the worst is over for us, in my view. The third week of July, I would see things starting working for the better.
What do you think about these repetitive eclipses happening all the time on the axis of Rahu, Ketu, Libra, Aries? What do you think this repetition of eclipses on the same positions will cause to the world?
One thing I want to say in what we say cardinal signs, or what we say is movable signs. In Sanskrit, they call it Chara Rashi. Chara Rashi means it is it is okay that the eclipses are constantly happening there, but what I would say that this is the house of movement. It's a house of fire. So I think it can burn down many things and we can start something afresh. So Aries is all about new beginnings. And eclipses happening there is, I think anything that has come off its age and anything that has to end itself and start with a new cycle. I think we have to start with a new cycle. We have gone through the post-COVID era, and many people have suffered, whether it is losing their near and dear ones, or even from there is a bigger challenge that I think the world faces today, which, in my opinion, that has to be addressed right now by all governments, is the mental health. These 2 years have really shattered people, have separated people across borders or lands and everything. People have not been able to go and see their near and dear ones. So it has been a huge psychological, because in the past century, for our perceivable life, we have not seen such a catastrophic global event, and for such a long period of time, which was almost stretching up to 2 years. So I feel there is a lot of counseling, and astrologers generally all over the world will have a very great responsibility to play during this time. Why? Is because many people, instead of reaching out to counselors, reaching out for psychologists or psychotherapists, because there are very few people who can serve, and we do not have enough people. So I think the outreach would be reaching out to um, people in the occult, esoteric sciences like tarot, and other forms of esoteric and divination sciences. So I think we do have a responsibility in healing the world, because people look up to solutions for their problems, small problems, financial problems, relationship problems, career-related problems. So I think we do have a greater responsibility more than the stars, because the stars will actually tell you what is happening, but how do you counsel them? How do you encourage them? How can you be more proactive? How can you bring the task force which have been working from home? There is a lot of health related issues by sitting at home. People have not had exercises, people have not had freedom of movement. So feeling claustrophobic, procrastination, there is a lot of issues that we probably have to deal with.
Certainly, and knowing your horoscope is already part of the solution, knowing your horoscope. Dr. Pai, I want to ask you about this very global change, which will be end of January of 2023, when Saturn enters Aquarius to stay there for almost 3 years. How do you see this? Because this will be totally different world when Saturn changes position. How do you see this overall, I mean, globally? No, we cannot look at certain exact details, transits now, aspects, of course not, but Saturn solely moving into Aquarius is already a big deal.
Definitely, I think Saturn's movement there, and in Vedic astrology, we call it the head office of Saturn, which we call as Mula Trikona. So whenever it is moving there, it is definitely going to bring, because it's moving there after it's already moved in, and it's going to move back again with full force. And this happens after 29.5 years, almost 30 years for it to come back. So if you look at the world, which was 30 years ago and right now, you see that it has been leaps and bounds, that we have gone forward in terms of technology, healthcare, wellness, all kinds of things. We have done a lot of progress. So Saturn will start with a different new cycle when it enters its head office. So all those, I tell my students, Saturn, when he enters his head office, imagine your headquarters. You're entering your headquarters or your head office, and there might have been files which have been sitting for your approval for 30 years. So as soon as you enter, what is that? All the files that are waiting for you to approve and to sign and to authorize will be authorized by Saturn. So I see a lot of transformation that will come in healthcare industry, financial services, if you transact, how travel and tourism will be seen across the world, because we will be slowly moving into the digital era of currencies. I feel in the next 10 to 15 years, there will not be physical currencies anymore. We'll be going into digital currencies. We know a lot of central banks are also going to start with their own digital currency, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, they're called. So I think the flow, and I also see that the Saturn's 3 years transit there will really help the common man. And I think the onus will be again putting back the power into the hands of common people rather than more into the elite few, rich. The rich are getting more richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class, which was there in between, is either getting, going into the poorer class. So I think there is a huge divide, and that divide can only be bridged with digital supremacy and also with education.
But this digital stuff is another way of enslavement and total control over humanity. This is something which is a bit worrisome, when Saturn with his heavy hand entering Aquarius, it looks a little bit not very positive. Unfortunately,
Now,
I think.
Okay, digital currencies, I have a take on it, Krasi. I just feel the central banks all across the world have really manipulated the world economics for the last 30 years. Okay, and if you also remember, in the last 50 years, in the 1970s, when gold as a hedge against the currency has been abolished by Richard Nixon in the United States, and then the rest of the world, the International Monetary Fund also went. I would say there would be more confidence now in people again pegging their assets across a precious metal like either gold or silver. So that's why I personally believe that around 2024, you would see again people and countries wanting to peg their currencies. Otherwise, if you really look at how the US government is just printing so much of currency, it's free money that is being. So how can you curb the inflation? That means bank interest rates have to go up. So there are so many of complicated things that can be made much easier with decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is the currency is trusted by you and me. We create these currencies through algorithms. It's not maintained by a centralized government authority who can actually, I'm not an economist, I can't talk about economy, but I can definitely say it's by the people, for the people, and for the wellness of the common man. If I and you trust in a digital currency that no government will have its say, I think we will have the freedom of doing transactions across borders without worrying about, what is the taxation systems and everything. There will be more awareness. What do the governments do? If they are collecting taxes, they're using tax people's money and spending it where they want to. They have, they can go and spend it on things that where in wars, in making weapons. So you're actually our money that is taken as tax money, saying that for the nation building and national development is used for weapons, for distribution weapons and creating weapons and creating unrest across the world. So Krasi, what I feel is money in hands of real people is better than money in the hands of people who are
certainly.
And definitely, I'm not saying that when you say these kind of digital currencies, there will be misuse there as well. If it gets into wrong hands of people who can use the money for terror, for people, for use the money for doing drugs and peddling of drugs and transaction, that is another issue. But you cannot say that everything is going to be perfect in any system that is going to be developed.
Certainly. Yes, certainly. So this could be the good side of Aquarius, the Aquarius energy and Saturn ruling there, the way you said. Well, indeed, what you...
Krasi, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, what is Aquarius? It's the water from the pot which is flowing out, which means whatever the pot was held, now it has to go out, which means the dirty water, the water that have been stagnating for so long has to flow out, which means all those things that needs to be cleansed, we have to purify the system. We cannot hold on to some of the laws and the policies and things that have worked maybe 30 years ago, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago. we have to change our mindset. We have to be more willing to adapt changes. I'm not saying that it would be perfect. The changes will have a lot of work to do, and slowly we have to evolve to it. But we cannot hold on to our things for too long, for because we need to see change. And Saturn wants to bring that change.
Oh, certainly. I think if we summarize what you just said, Dr. Pai, we can really hope that the next Saturn in cycle also, you know, as you mentioned, early spring of 2023 will be looking better. I personally reached the same results, and I'm very happy that you confirmed this. And I'm glad we can give some hope, you know, to the people which are watching us, because this is what we need. And yes, knowledge, you know, knowing how powerful we are to make our choices through knowledge of our horoscopes. And yes, thank you very much. I will place your contacts under this video so that people can see you, see your channel, see your method, Pai Padati, very interesting. So thank you very much, Dr. Pai. And just last question, what do you think about the properties now, and also the precious metals? Would they remain that expensive? Also the properties with Saturn in Capricorn. This is something which was the main topic of the last 3 years.
Yeah. I definitely feel that we are going to see because we look at many of these commodity driven things are like cyclicals, like for example iron and steel, then all kinds of metals and things. Saturn is the karaka, which means significator of anything which is underground, including hydrocarbons, fuels like crude oil, and then all the metals are under the control of Saturn, because mining is about Saturn. So even oil rigs, exploration, oil explorations, drilling, everything is Saturn driven. And because Saturn is now going to go over its last phase of the next 6 months in the sidereal system, it's going to be there in an earthy sign of Capricorn. But what I want to say to you, it can break many barriers, and also people have to be wary about their relationships, because this Saturn, when it's in its last phase, is going to have its 10th aspect of Vedic astrology on Libra. So that is, Libra is the natural sign of partnership, leadership, of coming together, marriages. So, and Ketu is transiting there at the moment, which is the south node of the moon. So I think that would be a test on many of the relationships of people that they have to pay focus on. But I can assure you, as you said, post February of next year, there is one more thing that I wanted to add to this. After post February of next year, I also see a lot many people who would be interested in esoteric sciences, divination sciences, occult studies, yoga, meditation, because Saturn is going to aspect the natural 8th house of Scorpio with its 10th aspect. And Saturn, when it's going to go to Aquarius, is also aspecting Aries, which is where it gets debilitated. So people will be more focused on health, improving their health, improving their financial status through going to skilled labor or trying to add value, education, and occult studies. So definitely you would see a lot of people interested in esoteric sciences, astronomy, astrophysics, and space research, space travel. All of this would open up many, many doors for us.
Wonderful, very interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Pai. This was very precious information. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon again.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Krasi. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.